Welcome to the Middleware Tech YouTube channel. In this series, you'll learn web service internal architecture. All code examples used in the videos will be available on GitHub. Let's get started.
More technicalities will come. Fine. So just see here. So first we talked about we have the client side. This is my client side or service consumer side, and this is my server side. This is server side or service provider side. So what we have done in the server side is that we have created one EMI calculation web service, right? So the corresponding function is calculate EMI. This is the actual function that is there on the server side, correct? And it has an time. Actual logic is available in the server side. Actual logic is available in the server that we have done, right? Okay. So on the web application, internal web application architecture, first what we have done. If you remember, first what we have done. First, we have created web service from. First, we have created web service from your Java class. In the top-down approach, we have bottom-up approach you have followed, right? And what we have done, we have created the web service from the Java class, right? So when you're creating the web service from Java class, that time, what you had created, it is created WSDL file, right? It is creating WSDL file. So what we have done here, we have create web service from Java class. So when you're creating the web service from Java class, that time it is creating the first step. I'm writing a step 1. So first step, step 1. Create, we create web service from Java class. Fine. So that time we find not only WSDL file, we find server side artifact. So WSDL file is one of the component in server side artifact. Fine. So actually, who have created this WSDL file? Who have created this WSDL file? This WSDL file is created by one of the component. The name of the component is, the WSDL file created name of the component is WSDL generation tool. So when you created the web service from the Java class, what will happen? Number 2, second step. WSDL generation tool create .wsdl file, the server side. Done. And who is providing this WSDL generation tool? The WSDL generation tool provided. So after that, what we will do? Let's say this is my registry. As we have not implemented registry in our application because we try to focus on the web service mainly. So that's why. So after that, next step, step 3. What we'll do in the step 3? Step 3. What we'll do? We'll publish this WSDL file inside the registry or UDDI. And right here UDDI. So what we'll do? We'll publish this WSDL file inside UDDI. We'll publish this WSDL file inside UDDI. So we can write a step 3 will publish WSDL inside UDDI. Fine. Okay. Then step 4. Fine. It came. Now what happened? Now client should get that WSDL file. Step 4 comes. In the step 4, what will happen? Client should get the WSDL file. So how client will get? Either client will get the WSDL file from the UDDI or client will get the WSDL file via email, you can send him the visual file via mail. That is also another possible. Whatever it is, client should get the visual file, correct? So assume just writing here dot WSDL. If I write here WS, that means client get the visual file. So step 4, client should get the visual file from UDDI or via mail, via email, whatever it is, client got the visual file. Done. Next step, when client got the visual file, what client will do? When client got the visual file, what we have done on the client side, we have what we have done on the client side is that we have created client side artifact. So you can write here very simply, we can get it stub. We have created a stub. So how we have created a stub from visual file? With the help of so on the client side, if you remember, you have created client side artifact. In the server side, we have created server side artifact. In the client side, we have created a client side artifact, right? So when you create client side, so stub is a part of client side artifact, right? So when you have created a stub from the visual file tool, so here we have used one of the tool. Its name is stub generation tool. Here we have used one tool. Its name is the stub generation tool. So using this stub generation tool, we have created a stub in the client side. We are saying client side artifact that contain multiple classes, but stub is one of them. So we can write here step 5. We create client side artifact. We create client side artifact from WSDL file. We create client side artifact from WSDL file, right? Okay. Next, step 6. So now here what will happen? Who have created the stub? The stub has created by stub generation tool. By stub generation tool. And who has provided that stub generation tool? If you remember, that stub generation tool is provided by our Axis One implementation. We are using Axis One, right? Axis or Axis One implementation. This Axis One implementation from Apache. He is providing this stub generation tool. Then only you can create that stub. Now who is creating the stub? Eclipse IDE with the help of stub generation tool. So you can create that that stub is being created with the help of stub generation tool, and stub generation tool is provided by Axis One implementation from Apache, right? Okay. So next step 7. Now what you are going to do? Now what this stub is doing? The stub is going to call the server side method calculate EMI, right? So what you're going to do from here, you're calling stub dot calculate EMI. You're calling stub dot calculate EMI, right? So when you're calling stub dot calculate EMI, passing some parameter, because you're calling this method, how you got this method? This method is provided for the visual file method signature. Actual business logic is here. Method signature is provided, but actual business logic is here, right? Okay. So when I'm calling stub.calculate EMI, passing those parameters like principal, rate of interest, and time, then what is going to happen? So you can write here client, next step, client call the server side method, client call the server side method using stub. Step 7, using stub, client call the server side method using a stub. That means this one, you're calling the server side method here from this client, calling the server side method. Okay. Now when you're sending the server side method, what will happen? The request from this client, the request, so you're sending this request, right? You are sending that request. You are sending that request. So the request, so you're calling, right? When you're calling this stub.calculate-AMI, that request that you are sending from here, that is coming as a SOAP request. So this is Java. And this is what SOAP request. SOAP is an XML, right? So here in this, when you're sending a request, when you're calling stub.calculate-AMI method using a stub, then that request is coming as a SOAP request. So there is implicit conversion from Java to XML, right? Right? So you can write here step 8. What is going to happen? Client call the server side method using a stub. So client request converted as SOAP request, right? Client request converted as SOAP request and send it to server, right? Next step, step 9. Now here the implicit conversion is there from Java to XML, and this conversion is handled by one of the API that is called JAXB. I'll talk about this after some time. So this implicit conversion is handled by one of the API called JAXB, Java API for XML binding. So when that request came in the server side, now here also when the request came in the server side, this is an XML, and in the server side we have there, this skeleton is there. So when the request will come, this is XML message, right? Then XML request will come to the server side. Here the skeleton is there. Because skeleton you have created because server side artifact is there. So here once again, conversion of XML to Java. Here Java to XML conversion, XML to Java 1 conversion. That XML to Java conversion implicitly handled by JAXB API. Whatever it is, the skeleton. So a skeleton handle the SOAP request and send the SOAP response. So server side skeleton is handle the SOAP request. So when skeleton handle the SOAP request, after that skeleton will call the actual business logic that is available on the server side, and this will send the corresponding response as a SOAP response. So here there is another response will come, and that will come as a SOAP response. So we can say here number 10, step 10, like a skeleton will call the actual business logic in the server side. So skeleton call the actual business logic in the server side and send the response as SOAP response to client. So when Skeleton is going to send the response as a SOAP response to the client, and once again implicit conversion is there from Java to XML. And when that SOAP response will come to the client side, here client will get the response like this. Client will get the response like this, right? If I'm going to run this, run as Java application, then client will get the response like this. So this is what part of Java, right? So what will happen? Client will accept that SOAP response. Now here implicitly, XML to Java conversion once again going on. So client will get the corresponding SOAP response and it will call the actual business logic. So if you see here, this is how the complete internal architecture work for your web service. And in your internal architecture of your web service, when the request is coming as a SOAP request and SOAP response, implicitly JAXB, Java API for XML binding, implicitly do the conversion from XML to Java and Java to XML. Now, how JAXB is doing the conversion, how we can use JAXB to implicitly do the conversion from XML to Java, Java to XML, and how we can customize those conversion will come later. For the time being, we try to understand from web service internal architecture that what is the use of these providers. What is the use of this provider? Since we are using Axis One implementation from Apache, so what is the use of Axis One implementation from Apache? What it is doing? The thing is that it is responsible to do two major tasks. What are those two major tasks? One is WSDL generation tool, another is stub generation tool. So this Axis One implementation providing you two tool. One WSDL generation tool, another is stub generation tool. Because if you don't have this two tool, you cannot work using web service. You have to depend on these providers, no alternative. Else you have to write your own API. So you have to use any one of the provider to create an web service, because using these tools only, you are creating WSDL file, WSDL generation tool, and stub generation tool, creating the stub, right? So that is the that's why we have to use any one of the provider in our web service communication. Right. So that is the advantage of that. That's why we go for any one of the provider in JAX RPC API specification, right? Okay. Yes, please. Anyone want to add any questions? You can tell me here from here. Okay, so what we'll do is next is that whatever examples that we have done, that is using Tomcat server, and try to understand as much as basics, right? Okay, so let's see where we are from the PPT point of view. Also, let's see where we are. So we talked about types of web service based on the communication, right? And web service internal architecture, how the complete flow actually work, right? Okay. And different types of API implementation provider. So since we are talking about JAX RPC API specification, so we are using JAX RPC only. So other API specifications we talked about one by one, but what I want everyone that please execute this example, JAX RPC API specification, this example in all the system, and check it is working in your system, right? And once it is done, then you have to test that web service, right? Okay. Now the things that we have done still now here we have to understand lots of things like WSDL file. We have used one WSDL file, right? So if you see this example, we should know about this WSDL file. This is my WSDL file that we have created on the server side. This is the WSDL file that we have created on the server side in our example. Right now, if you see this WSDL file root element is WSDL : definition. This is the root element, right? And if you see, it is written, it is using Axis version, Apache Axis version, right, to implement this web service. And this is inbuilt, it's coming with Eclipse. Fine. Now this WSDL file contains multiple element. If you see, multiple element is there inside this. So what are those elements? WSDL : type, that is one element. We should know about each and every element in details. WSDL : definition, this is the root element. WSDL : definition. Okay. So what I'm saying now, that is, I'm talking about WSDL elements. So when talk about WSDL element, first element comes WSDL : definitions. So if you write a single line for them, it is the root element. Fine. Now the next element, that is called types element. Now this types element, what it contain? It contain this is another element, types element. Let me write all types element. Next, we have another element that is called WSDL : message. So I'm just copying from here. This is another element, WSDL : message. Then we have another one element. If we go down, that is WSDL : port type. And we'll see. Right, this is WSDL : port type. Next, we have another one element. Go down, that is called WSDL : binding. Okay. And last one, WSDL : service. So we should know about this element. Then only we can create a web service from. We can customize the WSDL file. See, the web service that we have created now, that web service created based on bottom-up approach. So if I want to go for the bottom-up approach, is very easy, as you find here. It is not a task. Just if you have everything downloaded in your system, you just create the Java class and move next. It is done. Bottom-up approach is very easy. From the Java class you are going to create, right? Very easy. But the task is not easy for your top-down approach. In top-down approach, how we are going to create a web service, it is not so easy in case of top-down approach, because top-down approach, you have to write the WSDL file manually. And after that, from that WSDL file, you are going to create a web service. So when you are going to write a WSDL file, you should know some XML developer knowledge, right? You should know that some XML, right? Because you should know, if when you're writing the WSDL file manually, when you write the WSDL file manually, then you should know the meaning of these elements very well. Then only you can write a separate WSDL file manually, right? And that is the requirement from customer side. If you're going to resolve any customer requirement, and should manually write an WSDL file and test it. That is how it is working. That's why we're talking about each and every elements and details, right? It is required in case of top-down approach. Fine. So the second element I'm talking about, that is types element. So this types element, WSDL : types element, it contains the schema. It contain the schema. Now we'll say, what does it mean by schema? The meaning is that when you're using this XM web service communication, you are sending a request and you'll get a response. So the request you are sending as a SOAP message, and what this SOAP message content, it's an XML content, XML. SOAP message contains some XML data, right? And the SOAP request and SOAP response also contains some XML data, right? So the data that you are inserting and the data that is the output or the requesting data and the response data, request data and the response data, both are XML data. Correct. So when you're going to send some XML data, as I told you that XML data does not have its own existence without the schema. So that's why when you're sending that XML data, I should provide the grammar for the XML data, and that grammar is provided inside this types element. If you see here, that grammar is defined inside the types element. Types element contain the grammar of your XML input and XML output. So this is my XML input and this is my XML output, right? So if this is your XML input, if this is your XML input, in your XML input you have complex type sequence, first principal, then rate of interest, and then time. So those things will come in sequence, and that's a complex type. Correct? Correct. So this is your input parameter, XML data. And what is the output XML data or response XML data? Response XML data content the EMI value, actual EMI value. Correct. So this complete grammar is available inside the types element. Correct. So we should know about this complete grammar. Correct. Okay. So when you're writing an WSDL file manually, then we should write the complete input and output grammar manually. Now in this example, it is generated by the Eclipse, right? Second part is XML colon message, WSDL colon message. If you see this WSDL colon message element, right? If you see this WSDL colon message element, if you see that WSDL colon message element, now here we have one requesting, another is response, right? So you have a requesting message and the response message. The request message, so in your message element, you will find one request as well as one response. Both will find in the message element one request and another response, right? Okay, so you can write here, it contain request and response message. Fine. What it contain the port type? If you come here and see that port type, next one, port type. See, if you see this port type, the WSDL clone port type element, this contain the operations that I'm going to do. So in our examples, we have only one operations. Operations is nothing but the method in your Java class. So what is the method in your Java class? You have only one method. So that one method is defined as an operations in your WSDL file. So that one method is defined as an operations. So port type contain multiple operations. In this examples, in this current examples, you have only one method. So only one operations came. So if you have multiple methods, then you get multiple operations, right? So we can say that it contain multiple operations. It contain multiple operations, right? Okay. Next element that is given is nothing but the binding. Now here you have given the binding as document. Now we'll talk about different binding is there. One is document, another is style. So we have multiple binding. I've talked about those bindings later. For the time being, just I want to say that XM WSDL clone document, that element will talk about the binding that you are going to use in your current examples for your input as well as output parameter operation. So binding contain your actual operation name with the corresponding binding style. I'll talk about the different types of binding style in which we'll go. I'll come into this. When I create an web service using top-down approach, it contain different type of binding. That is for the time being. Fine. Okay. And service element contain where this operation is deployed. Service content, just see the service element. Service will tell you the actual address where it is deployed. It is deployed inside the local system in the Tomcat server, which support the port number 8082, right? So service element will define the deployed location. You can say very simply, it will define the deployed location, right? That's it. So we should know about all these elements. What are the use of different WSDL elements that we are going to use, right? Okay. Now, if I want to say some more basics here, then so what should be our next step? Next we'll if you see here, next what we'll do is we have done this task, right? Okay. Next we'll talk about JAX WS API specification. Okay, so what should be our next step is that we should go for JAX WS API specification in details. What are the different JAX WS API specification provider, and any one of the examples we'll try with the help of JAX WS API specification provider, right? Right. And but before that, I want from everyone that everyone have done JAX RS JAX RPC API specification, one examples that everyone have done it. So next we'll try to talk about JAX WS API specification and one example server side and client side using that. And then we try to talk about how we can customize an WSDL file. Okay, and how we can implement top-down and bottom-up web service. So top-down web service have another name called contract first. Bottom-up web service have another name called service first. So those things are there. We'll talk about this, right? So this would be our next example, right? Okay, right. And then we have some of the topic. We will try to focus on some JAXB annotations, web service handling, right? So these things how we'll move step by step. But before moving, we should focus on some introduction side here. To go with this for tomorrow, I suggest everyone to download and create the setup using this 3. You can use WebLogic application server also, any version. So web service setup, check Control C. This setup should run in all the system. Control V. Number 3, we'll use, tell me, Oracle Web Logic 11G or 12C version. Possibly you can get 11G version from internet also, but you have to search. If you got this or Oracle 11G or Oracle 11G Web Logic are different patches there. Any one of the server is enough. Possibly you'll get 12C version, and that is come 12.1.3, 12.1.2, something like that. Any one of the version you can use. We'll talk about how to use Oracle Web Logic server, some introduction to create the setup. But this should be there with you so that you don't have to download on the same time. Right. Another thing says number 3, number 4. Try to use Oracle to 11G version, because 12C version again lots of other criteria is there, because 11G and 12C is lots of differences there. Okay, if you use 11G, it's fine. If you're using 12C, that is also fine, but some differences there in between, right? Okay, so number 4 is that you have to download, you should have one database, Oracle LEVNG. We're going to use Oracle LEVNG database. So you can use MySQL database also. So since in our examples, we'll talk about Oracle LEVNG database and see how web service is using database service communication. So these are the 4 things should be downloaded in all the system so that to